Hello and welcome to live coverage of the Apex Gaming Pioneer $2,000 Open. I'm Tandy, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
Yesterday we had a wonderful event. Was taken down by Travis Brown, disgruntled elk on Twitter, playing Mono White Hammer in our modern event. But today we are moving on to Pioneer, a format that's a little bit smaller but still very explosive.
Yes, and there's some really powerful aggressive decks. There's really a good smattering of everything
Mm.
in this metagame. 46 players today. No surprise that mono green devotion is the most played archetype,
Yeah,
but
how
only in
many?
6 copies.
Okay, that's
That's
not so
about
bad.
that's 13% if
Yeah.
you do the math. And so not an overwhelming number. And then no other deck has more than four. So nothing else is above 10. We've got the normal sort of expected decks in Pioneer, Rakdos midrange, Izzet Phoenix, Mono White Humans. I guess the one surprise, no copies of Rakdos Sacrifice.
Really?
Yeah,
That's normally something. Well, first of all, Recto Sacrifice has been coming back in a big way in the
yeah.
greater Pioneer metagame, and to see zero copies is very surprising. Now, I do think that it competes directly with the same player pool that likes to play Rakdos midrange. Very much like the Thoughtseize grind you out mechanic is just something that type of player gravitates
Yeah.
towards. So I can see why one would choose midrange over the other.
And recently we've seen a resurgence in Izzet Phoenix,
Right. How
and
many
that
of those we have today?
three.
Three Phoenix decks, including one of our fan favorites, Retro Gamer, aka Krista O. She was in our Lorcana event last week, and she's playing Phoenix today. We got to talk to her at dinner last night about it, and hopefully
Yeah,
she takes it down today.
has been working hard on the deck for the upcoming RC,
Mm.
and should be a formidable opponent today. Was definitely said she was more prepared for Pioneer this weekend than she was for yesterday's
Mhm.
Modern. So
Well,
yeah,
she lost a turn two Blood Moon yesterday in game
yeah,
one, and she was like, "Okay, today's probably not going to be my day. I'm playing
yeah.
Eldrazi
No,
Tron."
no blood moons in this format, but yeah. The return of Izzet Phoenix, I think, has also caused a shift in the texture of the Rakdos decks in the format
Agreed.
because Izzet Phoenix is very good against Sacrifice, not nearly as good against midrange.
Right.
So Rakdos midrange now the Rakdos deck du jour once again at 4 copies in the tournament. We had no Rakdos Sacrifice, and that could be good news for our humans players.
Yeah, I think that the aggressive decks in general are going to get a big leg up without Rakdos Sacrifice kind of pinching them down. And if you look at MTG Goldfish metagame, which I think is a perfect snapshot of what the current metagame looks like, basically at all times, they're great at updating numbers across multiple events. I think Rakdos and Rakdos Sacrifice are like 1 and 3 in terms of deck popularity. And so to have essentially the third most popular deck, which pushes down on the aggressive decks, just be non-existent. Maybe today's the day. Boros Convoke takes it home.
Yeah, I know that is your deck, favorite deck, especially among the aggressive
Right,
strategies in
right.
Pioneer, and that's where we're going to start today. Only
Yeah.
a single copy in the tournament,
Hmm.
but that's where we're going to start in round one because there's a little bit of a new list going on with it, with those Thalias in the main deck.
Yeah, so the first match we're going to be watching today in round number one is actually a doozy. Two friends who actually tested together and stayed together, and one of our special guests, Young Dingo, as well as PT Bench. These are two Magic streamers, pretty popular, if I do say so. Dingo is going to be on the Azorius Lotus control deck, and that one, utilizes Lotus Field not to play those combo elements, but to play bigger and badder payoffs like Dream Trawler, Discontinuity, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria.
Yeah, a really, really powerful strategy. Not, a typical control deck. Doesn't do as much interacting, but it does have a good number of sweepers.
Mhm.
Doomscar being a very important
Doomscar is
one.
a heater. That card's
Yeah.
great.
And, normally we say, especially in the early rounds in these tournaments, this is closed deck list for our players. So they might not know what they're playing against. These two players rode up together, stayed together. They know exactly what they're up against. And that, I think, helps out young Dingo quite a bit.
Yeah, and his opponent is PT Bench playing Boros Convoke, and this is a new list that popped up over the last few days. The streamers, System Magic, that's Andrew Ellenbogen, and his partner, whose name escapes me at the moment, Andrew Ellenbogen, a former Pro Tour champion, but they were working with Max McVitie on Boros Convoke in their Discord, and
Aggro Master.
Max McVitie is
Max McVitie.
maybe the best aggressive player who ever lived, and that's a tough group of people because that's like Tom Ross, that's Patrick Sullivan, that's players with a long list of credentials. But Max McVitie always surprises me with his unique builds of these aggressive decks, and watching him play, he's always on the money. And this new Boros Convoke deck looks great. Now, I will say Ellenbogen was the first person to suggest Thalia, Garden of Thraben in the main deck. The builds that play heavier on white and play Gigantha, so they play Resolute Reinforcements, are more the de facto builds. Personally, I was a big fan of the Burning Tree Emissary builds, but this build is the Gigantha build with Resolute Reinforcements, and now Thalia in the main deck with very few non-creature cards. And so they're leveraging Thalia very similarly to how the mono white aggro decks do it.
Yeah, and that's going to be a really important one in this matchup. It really is going to come down to how quickly can Dingo get his mana engine online so that the mana taxing isn't as big of a deal, and how quickly can he sweep the battlefield, because if you don't do it quickly, there's not much else in the way of defense. Maybe blocking with a strict proctor can do a little bit of defense, but you got to get to those sweepers. He has quite a few in his list. Looking at it, I see only 2 copies of Doomscar, but 3 Farewells and 2 Sunfalls. So 7 sweepers, all in the main deck here. Also has an Elspeth Sun's Champion. You're not going to really minus in this matchup because the creatures aren't big enough, but plussing for 3 1/1 blockers is also quite helpful. So we can count that one as kind of a mini sweeper as well and make it a full 8.
All right, well, the players are situated and just about ready in the feature match area, so let's head on down for round number 1 of the Apex Gaming $2,000 Pioneer Open. On your left, PT Bench. On your right, Young Dingo. Dingo with that Lotus deck, and PT Bench with Boros Convoke.
Yes. Now, Dingo is coming off a finals appearance yesterday. It was actually the person felled by Travis Brown in the finals, but did sweep through the Swiss with a perfect 4-0 record, looking to replicate that today in Pioneer, since we are also playing 6 rounds with 46 people.
All right. PT Bench, normally known for playing older formats like Legacy, has quite a few trophies this season, and it's been fun to watch him go through a lot of those off-kilter cards in older formats. But here, we're playing Boros Convoke, and we're starting off with one of the best spells in the deck. That's Gleeful Demolition on turn number 1, killing Ornithopter and making 3 1/1 goblins. This is a way for the deck to enable those big Convoke creatures like Venerated Luxodon and Knight Errant Neveos on turn number 2, and I see a Knight Errant hanging out.
Yeah. Now, this version of the deck, not as big on the Reckless Bushwhacker plan. So,
often plays 2 Immodanes and 2 Reckless Bushwhacker is the new tech. Since you're not playing Burning Tree, Reckless Bushwhacker a bit worse than it should be, but the Immodanes is a nice replacement.
Yeah, actually 3 copies of Immodane's Recruiter in PT Bench's list, so...
All right, here is Knight Errant Neveos. Knight Errant does look at the top 6, and then for each of your convoked creatures, you can get 2 creatures with mana value equal to or less than the number of creatures that convoked it. And so we convoked with 3 goblins, so we can reveal 2 creatures that have a 3 or less cost, and so that's Immodanes. That's basically everything in the deck that's not Knight Errant and Venerated.
Yeah, so the big numbers are 3 and 5 to hit off of this. You don't really have any 4 drops, so we've hit that middle mark, which is perfectly fine for a turn 2 Knight Errant.
Yep, so we got Immodanes as one reveal, and then we got either Ornithopter, Reckless Bushwhacker, something hanging out over there.
I like the Ornithopter because we can Thopter into Immodanes next turn with the land.
All right. So a lot of pressure here on turn number 2 for PT Bench, and still Gritful thanks to the Knight Errant. And now we're going to shuffle the deck after we reveal these and put them in our hand, and it's going to go back Dingo's way. This Lotus Field control deck, it has some tricky things, but turn 2 Doomscar on Suspend and a turn 3 cast is a great way to clean this stuff up, but no turn 2 play for Dingo.
Yeah, it would have also been very nice to have that strict Proctor here. Not only is that a blocker, it stops the trigger from Immodane's Recruiter.
Right.
So that's what I was really looking for here on the turn 2 from Dingo. But without that or the Foretold Doomscar, he is in rough shape.
All right, PT going to start off here with Ornithopter. That's going to enable the Reckless. Let's see if that's what he goes for. Still has Immodanes on backup. We're going to play the Bushman. Swinging in. What you got, Dingus?
So
I can't call him that anymore. His mom got mad at me yesterday.
This is an attack for 14.
She did. She sent him a message like, that commentator called you Dingus. You better give him a talking to. And I told her that I'd sub to his channel, and she said that was fine. All right, this is a huge attack for PT Bench. This is only turn 3. We got an impulse for Dingo. I don't think that there's a 3-cost sweeper in the deck. I don't know that he's able to get out of this one next turn, especially with Imidane's Recruiter being cast. And yeah,
Yeah.
Dingo says, you know what? This is enough.
Even
We're
if he
done.
had something like temporary lockdown, that doesn't hit the Reckless Bushwhacker, which is mana value 3. It doesn't hit the Knight Errant. That would leave around 6 power.
Yeah. Welcome to Pioneer, Dingo. Thanks, Max McVitie, for the list.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of hand Dingo kept there, but he knew the matchup and didn't do anything. So maybe
He
don't
cast
keep
the
that hand.
impulse and died.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not like, maybe he had Lotus Field discontinuity. That's like a pretty reasonable opener.
And he was just hoping to get to turn 4 on the draw.
Sure. Sometimes the Convoke deck doesn't have turn 2 Convoke creature. Sometimes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as these
I
players,
I wouldn't bet on it though.
they do mulligan aggressively to find it. All right. As these players are shuffling up here for game number 2 and taking a look at their sideboards, I'm going to have Ross take a look at their sideboards as well and give us his expert analysis on what he thinks the players will be bringing in. Let's start with Young Dingo.
So Young Dingo has 1 Dragonlord Dromoka, 2 Thought Distortion, 2 Supreme Verdict, 2 Narset's Reversal, 2 Doan's Veto, 2 Change the Equation, 2 March of Otherworldly Light, and 2 Lantern of the Lost. Definitely going to bring in those Supreme Verdicts. A couple extra sweepers is very nice.
March seems nice as well.
March, I think, is good enough, especially because you can hit an artifact in response to Gleeful Demolition. That additional aspect of it really raises its stock in the matchup. I also think the Dragonlord Dromoka is good enough.
It's a big old lifelinker.
It's just one of the best things you can play the turn after you sweep their board.
Yeah. Well, I know that when I played the Boros Convoke deck at the regional championship, I actually struggled quite a bit in beating Atraxa Grand Unifier, just a large Vigilance lifelinker. And even if they drew no cards off of it, it was still going to be somewhat problematic early on with things like Neoform and whatnot. So, big lifelink and flyer doesn't seem so bad after Supreme Verdict.
And then on PT Bench's side, we have the 1 Gigantha the Wellspring as a companion, 1 Rydane God of the Worthy, 3 Thalia Guardian of Thraben. I guess he's actually not playing Thalias in the main deck.
Wow, he lied to me.
Okay.
He lied to me.
I think he updated his list. I saw his list earlier, but they can update it in Melee. 2 Regal Bunnycorn, 4 Forge Devil, 3 Rending Volley, and 1 Wedding Announcement. So definitely going to want to get those Thalias and that Rydane into the deck to stop the sweepers, slow them down from Young Dingo. I also like the Wedding Announcement as a way to grind through the sweepers.
Yeah, all seems pretty solid. As these players are drawing their opening hands, they're going to see if they would like to take any mulligans. But while they still are doing that, we got some time. So let's shout out our sponsors for today's event. G Fuel Energy Formula keeps us nice and energized on these long days of Magic the Gathering. Today we're going to be bringing you all the rounds of Swiss. I believe there's 6 rounds of Swiss today, followed by top 8, and we'll crown a champion. We'll give away 2 invites to the Apex Gaming Magic Invitational next month, as well as 1 invite to the regional championship in Denver in February to the winner. Players here are playing for quite a bit of cash, $2,000 on the line with $500 up top, but we have an incredible prize wall featuring things like foil sheets of what are those called? Textured legends, textured foil legends from Commander Masters. So
yeah, there's
a lot
5
of cool
jeweled lotuses on this sheet.
There was actually a whole group of Commander players that came and played Command Zone all day yesterday, and they were able to pair their tickets together to get one of those awesome foil sheets. So come on out to the Apex Gaming home store here in Caldwell and play some Commander and win cool prizes, or come play our main events and qualify for the Invitational and get some cash.
Yeah, Invitational weekend is in 3 weeks, and while this is the last monthly Invitational qualifier event before that, there will be last chance qualifiers for the Invitational that weekend. So you can come down, qualify that weekend, and participate in our big end of the year event.
All right, now we're here for game number 2. Dingo with a tapped land, and PT Bench going to start off here with Sacred Foundry, shocking for 2. We'll see what 1-drop he wants to play. Thraben Inspector, or maybe we have the Gleeful Demolition start again. Just a Thrabens.
Even better, Thraben Inspector.
Getting a clue. Ross, you need to get a clue.
Game's over. No one's ever beaten a Thraben Inspector.
Well, I think this Strict Proctor begs to differ, because this is a problematic card for PT Bench's deck.
It was too slow. We already got our trigger off the Thraben Inspector.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. What about the rest of them?
That might be a problem. Venerated locks it on. Knight Errant of Eos. Imidane's Recruiter. Reckless Bushwhacker.
Keep going. There's more.
Voltairan Epicure.
Yeah, keep going.
the other Thraben inspectors.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the deck list from PT Bench, you'll notice that the majority of creatures in the deck do have enter the battlefield effects. And when I do sideboard guides for stuff like this, I often have Lotus Field down as a pretty awkward matchup because it just depends on whether or not they have strict proctor. If they do, great.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Maybe bench needs to bring in the rending volleys from the sideboard.
I often bring in a couple, and I think that would be a smart play. All right, PT Bench attacks for 1, but Proctor blocks. Clarion Spirit was the play. That one doesn't have an enters the battlefield effect, but no Ornithopter to follow it up. It is a great one to go wide here. Ooh, no Lotus Field, though, for Young Dingo. Kept a double strict Proctor opener.
Has a Doomscar in hand, but now the sweepers get a little bit awkward. Because you've got 2 creatures for your own on the battlefield, but as long as they're holding on the fort, you don't need to cast a sweeper.
All right, we'll see what PT wants to do here. We can play a couple creatures and get a Clarion token. We're going to have to go wide to get past these 1/3s from Young Dingo, but it's going to be rather difficult without our enters the battlefield effects. See how PT wants to navigate. This might be a long game. Ooh, where's a Rydane? That god from, I want to say, Kaladesh. Kaldheim, that's the one with the X. Good call.
I believe it's pronounced cold ham.
Is it?
No.
I'm gonna ask the resident Viking in the store what it's called and see. All right.
Looks like we foretold something, but Dingo tapped 3 mana.
He was slopping it up yesterday a little bit. Seems like he's gonna slop it up some today too. We'll have a talk.
More importantly, missed the 4th land drop. And yeah, now reading the Rydane, even when you cast Doomscar for its foretell cost, you got to spend 2 more. It still has mana value 5, so the Rydane tax will apply.
Ooh, that look at the camera says it all. Frustration. Last game not having a whole lot to do before being dead. This game, facing down at Rydane, God of the Worthy.
Young Dingo now untapping the unnecessary land. Probably read his card and realized what foretell does.
He did pick it up and look at it.
Yeah.
It's not morph. It's pretty close to morph a spell.
Better to learn it now than in a later game where you just didn't foretell on 2 because you didn't think you could.
Well, we have a potentially nice turn here for PT Bench. Has Gleeful Demolition, and we can use that to play Venerated Loxodon, but unfortunately we can only pay 2 for one of the strict proctors, and we can't pay for both. So maybe we just do this, make 3 goblins, and then we say go. Then next turn we go Convoke, pay 4 to get our everything counters.
I mean, you've got a little bit of time because
of Rydane
and the fact that Dingo didn't make his 4th land drop. So he is at least two turns away from sweeping you. Probably more.
All right, well, if we play Epicure, we get no tokens and no damage, but we do get a trigger from Clarion Spirit, and then next turn we can do some convoking.
Yeah, I think the 1/1 Spirit is probably worth giving up the blood token and the damage.
Agreed.
Ooh.
Yeah, you got me. Attack.
Points to the Rydane to acknowledge the Clarion Spirit trigger. Very smart.
That's one of the 2. He said trigger probably.
Yeah. He knew what he was doing.
All right, but the strict proctor's holding down the fort. We're going to go back Young Dingo's way. This is a relatively useless attack. We had 2 strength versus 3 toughness, and we're going to bounce him off. Here we go back Dingo's way. Finds a land, haul the Storm Giants, and a pass. And now PT Bench has the option to just start swinging out. Only 2 blockers can block some 1/1s. We take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Do you see the draw? Legion's Landing? That's a nice one.
Yeah, it does trigger to get countered, but we can still flip it into a land and start making 1/1s. And then we can use that 4 to pay for Venerated Loxodon, but...
Yeah, I'm in to just make an attack. Maybe you don't attack with the Clarion Spirit.
Well, it looks like we're not attacking. It looks like we're going to go ahead and convoke anyway. Danto, the first 4. This is the backside of Legion's Landing. This land lets you generate 1/1s, reminisce, or I guess we are attacking, excuse me. So I think we also forgot to flip the Legion's Landing.
It transforms at the end of combat.
I disagree.
right? Oh no, it's not into combat. Okay, well, that's gonna be a problem.
It's only a problem if you're a PT Bench fan. Dingo might give it to him. We'll see. Triggers. Does that work? All right.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. We're
So
gonna
this
flip
is
it.
6 coming across, or 8 because of the right aim.
And now do we just convoke out this 4/4 Venerated Luxodon? That'll give us an extra token from Clarion Spirit as well.
Man, let's put the creatures in the graveyard that are dying. There we go.
Magic Online streamers, man. You know, they have everything done for them. And a passing of the turn. In return,
Ooh.
the Thestrian stage is going to copy the Adonto, so it's going to give Dingo a way to make some 1/1s, but Raiden's still here being very problematic.
I want one of those.
Yeah.
That looks pretty nice.
Yeah, passing of the turn. Oh, PT forgot to make a token as well. Ooh, ooh, ooh. In turn, make a token. Oh man, if this were 1999, I'd be roasting this man.
We're getting just a little sloppy. Everybody's a little sleepy. You know,
Good
it's
morning,
round one.
gamers.
Everybody's warming up.
You know, he did ask me
Including
where
us.
I got my coffee at this morning, and I told him my hotel. And they're not staying at the hotel, but I was like, you know, you could probably just walk in and make you a cup of coffee, and they won't know the difference or say anything. Same with the continental breakfast. That's an old scam.
Now, is this the turn we go for the Venerated Loxodon?
No, this is the turn we go Chef at Dunes and we go Smoosh. Chef at Dunes Smoosh seems like a lot of damage.
Shevat Dunes Smoosh. Dingo would be making a token of his own, most likely.
Yep, and then we got 3 blockers. Instead of making a token, he could potentially have something in hand, but he hasn't done it yet, so I don't know.
The only thing he could have from his deck would be Wandering Emperor, but Raidane stops that.
Right.
So I guess he could have March. March of Otherworldly Light.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to go full-on Convoking with Venerated Luxodon. We're going to pay the 4, and then all 5 of these creatures are going to get a +1/+1 counter. So PT is going for a big swing next turn. This turn doing a little more building.
So this is a big draw for Dingo. Does he find land 5 to cast that Doomscar through the Raidane, or is PT Bench going to get one really big attack in?
Yep. Keep in mind the 1/1 token from Adonto the First Fort, as well as the copied version, does have lifelink, so that will change combat math just slightly.
Den of the Bugbear is a nice one for PT Bench, insulating himself from the potential sweeper here.
Ha! Oh, is this land untapped? Or is it another tapped land? Oh my god!
I'm not even sure.
I think
what
that's
land
Lotus
that is.
Field. I think that's a promo Lotus Field. It looks funky.
Yeah.
I see one word at the top, and that's probably Hexproof. But we don't have to sacrifice any lands thanks to the Strict Proctor. So next turn, Young Dingo going to have a boatload of mana at his disposal. We'll see if PT can punch through lethal here. He does have the Chef at Dunes, but he will have to use it before combat. It is a sorcery speed activated ability. We'll see if he sees it or if he wants to go for Den of the Bugbear instead.
So a Chef at Dunes activation, Dingo makes another vampire token, can block 4 creatures. You block the Venerated Loxodon, the Clarion Spirit, the Raidane, and one of the pumped tokens. Let's say
I think that's only
the
10
vampire.
damage.
So then that is going to be 2, 4, 5, 6 plus 4 is 10. So we'd come across for 10, plus Dingo would gain 2 life from his own vampire tokens. So Dingo would fall to 4, which is convenient because that's the amount of damage that Den of the Bugbear will swing for after a sweeper gets cast.
Right, so good call on that. So Ben's going to go ahead and pop Chef at Dunes and swing into everybody. And if our calculations are correct, Young Dingo's going to survive this turn at 4 life. And next turn, PT Bench, after the sweeper, could attack with the Den of the Bugbear. So this one looks maybe rolled up for PT Bench. We'll see if Dingo's got any tricks.
Yeah, one of those proctors has to jump in front of the Raidane. Now we block Clarion Spirit and one of the pumped tokens. Yeah, and it's 10 coming across, less 2 from the lifelink.
Yep.
Now, because Dingo drew Lotus Field last turn, he can Doomscar for 5 mana, 3 plus the 2 for the Raidane tax, then have 2 mana up. If he has a March, or if he can find a March off the top, Then he answers the Den of the Bugbear, and
Hmm.
suddenly the battlefield is clear, and he gets to untap with a bunch of
Does he have
mana.
any Field of Ruins that are similar in his sideboard? Because he could go Field of Ruin off the top, activate, and then play the Doomscar after.
He does not.
Okay. All right. Well,
And just an untapped land will leave him one short of being able to activate the his own Adonto after the sweeper. So that's not an out. I think it has to be March.
okay. Let's see if he's got it. We know the Doomscar's coming. Thespian Stage was the draw. He has Sunfall in hand as well.
So if he has a Shark Typhoon here, he can sweep the board and then cycle Shark Typhoon for one, chump the Den, take one from the Den token.
Oh, he also has Discontinuity, so he could upkeep Discontinuity to gain an extra turn because it only costs 8 right now.
Yeah,
And then
and
that
he
could
has
give him
eight.
an extra draw and an extra land maybe next turn for some combination of things.
Yeah, just buy some time. Now that will allow PT Bench to untap. So post sweeper, you're now facing down the Den plus a vampire token from Adonto. So it's not completely free
Mm.
to take the extra card.
He also has Immodanes in hand too, and with that Adonto token, it's just making the outs for Dingo worse and worse.
You could also have a Ganjo here, but I don't see any of these corner case outs in hand.
Dingo in the tank, really trying to figure it out. I think he's coming to the conclusion that Discontinuity on upkeep is what we got to do, and he passes the turn. Now, he can let PT draw and attack. I think that that's a mistake because PT says, you're at 4. I'm just sending with most things. I'm not really afraid of Settle the Wreckage because I know your list, and also, why would I put anything else onto the table? So, here comes the attack. And after everything is tapped, we're going to Discontinuity, and that's going to end the turn. Let's get Discontinuity on the screen. This powerful 6-mana instant, reminiscent of, oh man, Time Stop from
Yep.
Kamigawa, right? But it has the ability to be cast for less with your Lotus Field trigger on the stack, so you can use it defensively and aggressively. It's a really cool card, and one of the big reasons why Lotus Field is as good as it is in these
Yeah.
control decks.
Note that the discontinuity is appropriately exiled there. When you end the turn, you exile all spells that are on the stack, as you can see from the reminder text on your screen. And discontinuity is technically still on the stack as it's resolving.
That's one they don't want you bringing back with Eternal Witness over and over again, huh?
Yeah.
Quite annoying is discontinuity to play against. Oftentimes, when you play against Lotus Field, you get to a point where they just chain them 2-3 turns in a row after they've established a completely dominant board.
Okay. Now, I still don't see one of those potential follow-ups to
Well,
stop this Den.
he has Sunfall, and I think he's had it, and he was looking
Okay.
for a way to cast Sunfall and activate, but I think he's one short because Sunfall currently costs 7. He only has access to 8 mana. So
Yeah,
Doomfall here for 5. And
needed
then,
another land.
Doomfall for 5 and hope PT doesn't go for the win, instead tries to redevelop.
Yeah, that Den of the Bugbear coming in clutch here, as was the one of Rydane from the sideboard. If that Rydane was just a 4th Thalia, this game would have been completely different. The
Yeah.
extra tax from it was incredibly important.
Yep. The tax from it, but also the attacks from it too, right? Because it's vigilance. If you were attacking with Thalia, right, you wouldn't have been dealing much damage.
Yeah,
All right, we're
you
gonna
wouldn't have
Doomscar. This costs 5. I think Dingo's just like asking for clarification from the judge on Foretell versus Rydane, but we
Yes.
know it's gonna cost 5.
Mana value is a characteristic of the card determined by its cost in the upper right-hand corner. Any alternate costs do not change the mana value of the card. It is a characteristic of the card, not of a spell.
Okay, Doomscar you. Blow it up. Get them out. So, Doomscar takes care of all these creatures, but we have Adonto that can be activated end of turn. We have Den of the Bugbear that can be activated on our turn, as well as Immodane's Recruiter. So, a lot of things for PT to think about and how he wants to go about trying to win. We know Dingo is essentially out, right? If PT just goes for the kill, but he might want to deploy more threats in case of something like March.
Yeah.
Oh, and we even have Resolute Reinforcements during the end step, so this is a nice little additional boost of pressure and makes Immodane's pretty strong.
So the only things you have to be worried about here are March of Otherworldly Light, Igonjo, and Shark Typhoon.
Right. So we know there's very few, if any, counter spells in Dingo's 75. And so now, let's just see if PT goes for it. Here's Immodanes. That's going to trigger. We're going to attack.
Yeah.
3, 4,
And
5,
this is
6,
now
7.
three attackers. Any two of them are lethal. So a removal spell doesn't do it.
Oh, nicely done from PT Bench and Boros Convoke. Unfortunately for Dingo, Rydane going to really tax him on those expensive cards, and one of the better things you can play against a deck like Azorius Lotus Field.
Yeah, good stuff from PT Bench. You know, knew when to hold back a little bit, when to set up, knew how much time he had, gave Dingo basically one turn to draw an untapped land, and he did.